How's it hanging? It's Web Studios here. I'm Reed.
And I'm Jax.
And welcome back to another video.
So as you guys know, we've been cosplaying as Spider-Man for 3 years now, and the entire time we have not used a face shell. We've tried them on a bunch of suits, like the 2099 suit or our Deadpool costume, but they've just never improved the look enough to the point where we would actually want to use them. We've resorted to using the half face shells, which are not nearly as popular as the full face shells, even though they still improve the look and they're much cheaper than getting a full face shell and magnetic lenses.
So we've always wondered, why do people put such a high value on face shells? I mean, face shells can be hundreds of dollars, they can be more than the cost of the actual suit. Why do people like them so much?
The first reason for why we don't get face shells is because they're so expensive. People are paying hundreds of dollars for these 3D printed face shells that don't even really improve the look that much, and it's just crazy how people are spending this much money on something that's just not worth it in our opinion.
Another reason, similar to price, is value. I mean, you're paying all this money and you're getting kind of a minimal improvement. I will be the first to say that it does look better. It definitely improves the look, but it's just so marginally. I don't think that the look really justifies how much you're spending.
Another reason why we don't use face shells is because the look of them really isn't that great. You have to be so specific with your measurements or else it's just not going to look good. If you get a face shell that's too big, you're going to have a lump on the back of your head and it's going to stick out on the sides. If it's too thick and you see it sticking out, it's going to be very obvious that you're wearing a face shell underneath, which is not the goal. The goal of a face shell is to try to get the look without people knowing you have a face shell. So if you have one that's this thick and it's sticking out, why would you even use it? Overall, I don't think the look is really that improved unless you get the exact measurements and you buy one that is super expensive and fits you perfectly.
Another reason is the comfortability. Face shells are not comfortable. They hurt to wear. Any person that has experience wearing them will tell you that they're uncomfortable.
Now, it is a little bit uncomfortable to wear a mask with a face shell, but this is pretty much what the actors wear when they don the suit in the movie, so it's just something you're going to have to get used to.
Because this 3D print without this sometimes will really scrape up the inside of your face, and it's not a fun feeling to go through.
While a face shell does have the tendency to be a little uncomfortable, especially if it's your first time ever wearing one, if you get to the point of wearing a custom-sized face shell and you kind of get into the tolerance of wearing it, it's not super uncomfortable. So again, this one's not really like a direct con, it's more or less me just pointing out the fact it could be uncomfortable.
The only thing I might have to do to it is maybe put a little bit of foam in it. The chin is a tad uncomfortable, but maybe that's just because I've been so used to my movable jaw face shells.
Oh man, that's just choking me. That it doesn't like dig into my skin, because that was a problem when I tried this on with masks, because the masks are pretty tight, so it kind of was messing this up.
This thing is horribly uncomfortable. No disrespect to the face shell maker, right?
It muffles your voice, it scrunches your nose, it is not a fun experience to wear a face shell for long periods of time. And the worst part is that it's such a hassle to put them on that you'll have to keep it on because you can't just take your mask on and off like you would if you don't wear a face shell. The comfortability is just so poor that it is really hard to justify wearing one of these things for long periods of time. Especially if the thickness and the flexibility isn't there, it really will feel like you're wearing a hard piece of plastic on your head that just doesn't feel good rubbing against your skin.
Another reason why we don't personally use face shells is because they're not accurate to the comics. When Spider-Man is running around, he's actually just wearing a mask. And then he takes it off and it's just a mask. He's never gonna wear a face shell to make him look cool while he's fighting crime. While people do wear face shells when they're filming movies, like all of the Spider-Man movies they used a face shell, it is only used to replicate the comic book look. Even while they do use them in the behind the scenes, in the actual movie universe, it's meant to be just a fabric mask and not have a big plastic shell underneath. The reason we use half face shells instead of full face shells is because it's more accurate to the comics. When Spider-Man's just wearing his plain mask, he's easily able to take it off, and using a half face shell makes it much easier for you to just be able to take it off and not really have to worry about a big plastic shell. It's also easier to put on as well, compared to wearing a big plastic face shell on your face.
Another issue is space. Face shelves take up so much room. I have a shelf where I store all of my Spider-Man accessories like masks, gloves, boots, and even the half face shells, and that doesn't even take up half the amount of room that just one face shell takes up. I have to display my Deadpool face shell completely separately. It just doesn't fit with my $20.99 face shell. Especially if you need a separate face shell for every single different kind of lens that you could have of any Spider-Man suit. And there's like infinite lenses, which is infinite face shells. But you don't have infinite space.
When you're wearing a Spider-Man suit, you want to feel like Spider-Man. And wearing a face shell does not do that. It makes you feel like you're wearing a plastic mask on as well as your fabric mask. It completely breaks the immersion of you wearing a Spider-Man suit. When you're wearing a Spider-Man suit, you want to feel like the character. You want to feel like you're swinging through the city. You want to feel like Spider-Man. And when you're wearing a face shell, it's harder to do that. You're taking so much time to put on that and put on the mask on top of it, to line up all the lenses and the fabric on it. It's just, it breaks the immersion of you feeling like a superhero when you're wearing a costume.
Lastly, is just our experience. I mean, one of our first face shells was from Heroes Time, and it was some rinky-dink plastic thing that was uncomfortable, didn't fit well, and didn't work very well. Then our second one was a relatively good one, which was on a Deadpool one, but that's because it was built into the mask. Even then, still uncomfortable, still makes your head look kind of big, and it definitely works for Deadpool. And then our most recent face shell outing was for our Spider-Man 2099 costume, and if you've seen that video, you know how that turned out. It broke. We made a lot of modifications just to get that video done, and it still hasn't really worked since, so we're kind of just scrapping that in general. Overall, we just haven't had a great experience with face shells, and it's really hard for us to recommend a product to you guys that we just haven't had a good experience with. Now, this isn't us discrediting anybody who put time and effort into these face shells and really worked hard on them. We just want you to understand that that's just our experiences with them. Definitely don't discredit any of the people that actually made the face shell. We've just had a rough going with them.
Now, with all of that being said, we bought 2 face shells.
Yeah, the community finally got us. We spent over $200 on face shells, and they're getting here pretty soon. Now, we don't really want to spoil what they are, but we will be dropping a few hints over the next few videos, so if you guys think you can guess what they are, leave a comment down below.
If you guys made it this far into the video, check out our Instagram and our Patreon. They'll both be linked below.
Also remember to like and subscribe, and remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Is he gonna be silent? We'll see.